Toby is a steam tram engine. He has cow catchers and side plates that hide his wheels. He works on Thomas's branch line, carrying workmen to the quarry every morning and other passengers to stations on the line. Toby is also a good shunter at the Farquhar station yard, shunting the trucks in places where they can look organised. Toby knows everyone on the branch line and everyone knows him. Especially his good friends Thomas and Percy. Toby is a small engine and is always familiar with the background of the branch line and feels comfortable working there. There isn't anywhere else he would rather stretch his wheels to. One morning, the Fat Controller came to the branch line sheds. He had an important job for Toby. "I need you as a spare engine to help out in the yard at the big station today," he said. "The trucks are in need of rearranging, and I need someone to fetch the coaches." "Yes, sir," replied Toby, but he was worried. "Don't worry, Toby," said Thomas. "The big yard isn't all bad. I worked there all the time before I had my branch line." "I still shunt there sometimes myself," Percy put in. "There's nothing to worry about." Toby sighed. "Very well," he puffed. "I'll do my best." And with that, Toby puffed out of the shed towards the big station. When he arrived, the station was busy. Big trains were departing and engines were waiting for their trucks and coaches. Toby chuffed into the yard. "I hope I can handle this," he said worriedly. Just then he saw James trying to move some trucks from a siding. The trucks laughed and James's wheels spun repeatedly. "Get moving! Get moving!" ordered James angrily. Suddenly, his coupling broke and he shot backward, barely hitting Toby. "Bust my cow catchers!" cried Toby. He was shocked. "What are you doing here?" asked James. "The Fat Controller sent me to work here," answered Toby. "You?" snorted James. "Why would they send a small engine like you here? You're not fit to work in this yard." This made Toby upset. He looked around and saw how big the yard was. Trucks were spread into different places, blocking a few coaches in their tracks. "What if I'm not useful enough to work here?" Then he remembered Thomas and Percy saying that they worked in the yard. "I must prove to them that I can manage the yard," he puffed. Toby puffed forward and gently started pushing some trucks. He pushed as hard as he could, but the trucks sang rudely at him. "Toby, Toby, so soft, so small. He's no good in this yard at all." Toby was too distracted by fear to take any notice. He continued pushing the trucks when the station master appeared. "Come along, Toby. Gordon needs his express coaches at the platform when he arrives." Toby became more worried. He started puffing off and noticed James still struggling to pull the trucks. His coupling broke again and he shot backward toward Toby. Toby got an awful fright. Just then, Henry arrived in with his heavy goods train. He saw Toby in the junction and applied his brakes, whistling frantically. Toby sped forward through the station. Henry stopped just in time. He was shocked. "Toby!" he called. "What on earth do you think you're playing at? You could have caused a serious accident." Toby was even more upset. He chuffed quickly away to a nearby shed. Henry saw this and was surprised. Later, Toby was resting. He felt very sad. Just then, Henry arrived. "I'm sorry about my outburst earlier," he said to Toby. "I didn't mean to scare you." "No, it's not your fault, Henry," replied Toby. "I'm not used to working in the big station yard. It's bigger and busier than the one at Farquhar. In fact, far too busy and big for me. I don't think I want to continue working there." Henry wanted to help. Then he had an idea. "Why don't you pretend it's like the yard at Farquhar?" he puffed. "What do you mean?" asked Toby. "Imagine that the big yard is Farquhar, where you can still see everything looking very simple to do. Pretend the trucks are like the ones on the branch line, then arrange them the way you do it," explained Henry. This made Toby feel rather better. "Thank you, Henry," he replied, and puffed quickly back to work. When Toby arrived back, he saw that there was much to do. He quickly shunted the trucks into their proper sidings and arranged Gordon's coaches at the platform. Gordon blew his whistle and left the station with the express. Whenever Toby arranged the rolling stock for the engines, they all whistled thank you to him. Toby felt very pleased with himself. Toby had almost finished. He saw James still struggling with the trucks. James shot back, but this time Toby buffered into James, instead of running away. "Do you need some help?" he asked. "I can shunt those trucks for you." "Pah!" huffed James. "You can't manage these trucks 1 inch." But Toby didn't take that rude remark from James. "Move aside and I'll show you how I do the job," he puffed. Toby puffed forward to the trucks and buffered up. "Come on, move along! Come on, move along!" he demanded. Toby soon shunted the trucks into place. James couldn't believe it. Henry had been watching and smiled to Toby. He was pleased for his friend. That evening, the Fat Controller spoke to Toby. "You have been a hard-working chum today, Toby," he beamed. "You are a really useful engine." Toby was pleased. "How was it for you, Toby?" asked Thomas. "Well," replied Toby, "all I had to do was pretend it was like this yard, only bigger. Then the work I do seems simpler to do than I realise." "What? Where did you get that idea?" asked a puzzled Percy. "Henry taught me that. He's a big engine, but he seems to understand what a little engine really needs." The good friends all smiled. Toby isn't afraid of going to the big station anymore. He remembers what Henry had taught him and knows that there is nothing that he can't handle. Except perhaps the station junction, but that's another story.